Today, I'm going to show you how to make some beautiful holiday planters for little to no money. Now that Thanksgiving is over, it's time to get the porch ready for Christmas. We have these purple fountain grasses that we planted a couple of months ago now when we did the fall refresh, and they did really well up until a couple of days ago when we started getting really frosty weather and freezes overnight, and then they kind of browned because they're not hardy in my zone 6B. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get rid of all the fall decor, the pumpkins, the rugs. We'll dispose of these pumpkins in the woods and let the deer that graze out there have a snack. And we'll also get rid of these fountain grasses. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and forage some greens to do the front containers with some foraged greens for the holidays. We're also going to put up some wreaths and a swag and just do a full transition and get ready for the holidays. So come hang out with me while we get the porch decorated for Christmas. I have some creeping Jenny in the front of these containers, which is perennial, and I really like the vining down these pots, so I'm not going to yank them out. I'm going to just cut them really short, leave the roots in the container, and you actually won't even see them once I put the greenery in here, but I am going to keep it. And to remove these grasses, initially I was going to use my Felco pruners to cut the grasses and throw them in my wagon, but that would make quite a mess because it's very windy out here and they would end up blowing all over the place. So instead I'm using my Hori Hori and I'm sawing it out, and I'm grabbing it by the root ball, which makes cleanup a lot easier. Now this Hori Hori I've only had for about 6 months, and I don't know what took me so long to get one because it's actually an amazing garden tool. This serrated edge helps me cut the root ball right out. I've used this for so many things, dividing plants, and even just this fall to plant bulbs. It was such a great tool. I bought this one on Amazon and I can link it below if you're interested. In thinking about what I want to use in my containers, I know that there are about 3 or 4 different evergreens that I'm going to take some clippings of, starting here with these native pines that I have in my garden. So I'm going to grab a few bundles of these and then we'll move on to something else. I'm actually going to clip some of these twigs that I can potentially use in the center to add some height to my arrangement. So similar to what people do with red twig dogwood, yellow twig dogwood, or willow branches, I'm going to use these bare sticks or twigs to give me a similar effect. I have this Colorado blue spruce that has a really beautiful blue color, and so I'm going to take some clippings from here as well. The goal when you're creating these containers is to get different colors and different texture foliage to give it a lot of interest. And right on the side of my blue spruce, I have this yellow type of juniper. But it has a really beautiful arching branch and yellow foliage. So I'm going to grab some of this, and I'm also going to grab some of my gold mop cypress branches. And when I am pruning out branches to use, I always try to make sure that I'm not going to misshape my shrub. I want it to still have a really pretty shape. So I try to be really careful about where I make cuts. Here's another one of the same juniper that I have a little bit further down that I can cut a few branches off. So that way we're not taking all of the cuttings from the same shrub. This beautiful hinoki has a lot of growth that I can actually take a few branches off of it. This particular one here is starting to make a second leader, and because I only want one, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this branch off and use it in my arrangement, as well as a couple more of these branches. I've collected all of my greens and now I'm gonna start assembling my containers. One thing you wanna note is that you wanna make sure that you water your soil really well and get it nice and moistened before you start putting your fresh greens cuttings into the soil. As long as your container stays moist and the weather is cool, these will stay fresh for you for a couple of months. I typically do my containers at the end of November, beginning of December, and they will stay fresh for me up until the end of February when I finally decide to take them apart and get them ready for my spring plantings. You're literally just going to take your cut branches and stick them into the soil. And as I'm picking my pieces that I'm going to use or the components for my container, I'm going to make sure to keep them even. And so if I put 2 sprigs of pine in this one, I'm going to go over and put 2 sprigs of pine in that one. And that way, if you do the same thing, if you just move from one to the other, you'll end up with pretty balanced containers. I'm really liking the way that they're looking so far. And so the goal with this is just to go slowly and add components as you see fit. And if you see something that's not working, it's not glued in, so you can just pull them back out and kind of rework the arrangement. And as I'm going through and putting these containers together and stepping back and taking a look, I'm noticing that the branches that I put in the center are kind of getting lost among the greenery and they're not really adding anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove those twigs and keep working on just building the greens. And the last component that I'm adding for the greens is this yellow juniper as well as some gold mop cypress. I think these are going to look really nice draping over the edge of the container and break up the brown and the greens. I think it'll look really pretty. I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. I was finding that the branches that I originally cut to give it some height weren't really adding to the look of the containers because I'm getting the height that I need from the pine and from the other evergreen branches that I've put in the containers. And so far, these have cost me $0. All I did was forage these greens from my garden. I absolutely love having evergreens for year-round interest, and around the holidays, there's an added bonus. You can use them for decor. Now, when you're doing these, like I said before, you want to try to keep them pretty balanced. It's going to be like your eyebrows. You want them to be sisters, not twins. You're using natural materials, so generally they're not going to be identical, but you just want to get them, at least the scale, pretty proportional. Now you could stop with your containers right here and they'll look just beautiful the way they are. But if you wanted to go one step further, you could bring in some other elements, such as some lights. Here I have some strings of battery-powered lights that I can add to give a little bit of a glow in the evenings. Or you can also add some things like pine cones or even berries. Now, because I don't yet have a mature holly, I just added a holly just this fall, actually just recently. I don't have any berries in my garden. I have no winterberry, things that I definitely want to add going down the road. But for now, because I don't have any of those things, I actually just went to the Dollar Tree and they had these sprigs of berries. Now, these are just styrofoam painted berries and they probably won't make it past this season. But for 6 sprays, I paid just a little over $7 because it's $1.25 now per piece. And I can cut these out and I can insert them into my arrangement to bring a little bit of that holiday red into the container. I don't want to ruin my Felco prunas cutting through these wires, so I'm just going to use this little wire plier and I'm going to take off all of these yucky you know, like silk foliage, because I think it doesn't look very pretty, and I just want to use the berry picks. So I'm just going to cut these apart and then I'll start placing them, and if I like them I'll keep them, and if not then I won't. My lights have these little battery packs. These particular ones work with 3 AA's. And what I'm gonna do is I always put them in little plastic sandwich bags because they are okay to be used outside, but by putting them in these little sandwich bags, it does prevent moisture from getting to them or rain. And I just feel like it will preserve your batteries as well as your lights for a bit longer. So here is the final result, and I'm really happy with the way they turned out. All of the greens were foraged from my garden. I got some of these native pines, as well as some green hinoki cypress, some blue Colorado blue spruce, and some of this yellow with the juniper as well as gold mop cypress. And I think that all of these different evergreen colors, as well as the texture, make a really beautiful and interesting container. And I did go ahead and add a string of these battery operated lights. They might look like they're twinkling on camera, but they actually are solid. It's just the camera that's making it look that way. But there are multiple settings on these, and they're battery operated, which is great, so you don't have cords everywhere. And then I just added a little pop of red with these little sprigs of these little berries, which I think looked really pretty. So I'm really happy with them. I also put up my swag above the door and my wreaths on the windows. We prefer not to put wreaths on the doors so that it doesn't scratch the wood, but we're pretty minimal when it comes to Christmas decor. This is pretty much the same setup every year. So I hope that this inspired you to go into your own garden and look for some things that you can use to make some beautiful holiday arrangements. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.